Cheerio. Welcome to TexAgs Rewind, where I can't keep the accent going. On the show today, we not only talked about Joan Jett. I got to know the difference between Joan Jett and Pat Benatar. We talked Belle Biv DeVoe, but this is a college football show, and we had a lot of college football to talk about, especially with our Aggies. Shereen Williams joined us, talked to us about the top Aggies in the NFL. Seth Small's dad was on the show. Seth Small hit the game-winning field goal, 41-38, for those who don't remember. His dad came on the show. Rick Small had a great conversation about Seth growing up, how he got into football, and just how special of a moment that weekend was. Tom Hart on the wild weekend that was college football, A&M and beyond. And we got to know a little bit about those Mizzou Tigers. All right, Shereen, let's get into the top three Aggies in the NFL. Who's number three?
Well, it was a tough week because there really weren't a ton of standouts. But you know what? I'm going to go with Dan Campbell. I don't know how many people saw the press conference after where he started crying, and it just showed you how much he cared. We all know that. Those of us who know him and know him really well, we all know how much he cares. And that team is playing so hard for him. They're just not very talented. But he's going to turn Detroit around, which still has the Bobby Lane curse from more than 50 years ago riding on it. I think he's going to slay that Bobby Lane curse that produced a really good team. They're close to having a win. They should have won that one. There's a couple others they should have won. They came back against the 49ers. They've really played awfully well for the talent level they have. So we'll start with Dan Campbell. We'll give him a little bit of love in Detroit. I think he needs it this week. And then, secondly, I would go with Ryan Tannehill. Didn't have a great game, just under 200 yards passing, a touchdown. And I know it was against Jacksonville, but we haven't talked about Ryan Tannehill yet this year. And he has the Titans back on track. I think they're 3-2 now, so playing a little bit better. So we'll go Ryan Tannehill number 2 and number 1. I'm going to stick with Mike Evans. I just, caught 2 touchdowns late from Tom Brady, had over 100 yards, is really playing at a high level on a Super Bowl championship team. And I think he's headed towards the Hall of Fame. I don't know how much more he has to do to get there, but he's playing at a Hall of Fame level and has his entire career.
I love that, and we'll be there in Canton whenever that day comes. Thank you so much, Shereen. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
But just talk about your emotional evening.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great name for a photographer and videographer, right? Cam Worthy. It's perfect. I think she captured everything that everybody was feeling in that stadium at the time. There's a little blend of everything. My daughters, my wife, my daughter-in-law, everybody was going a little bit crazy, but it was great to watch.
Yeah, and just, are you surprised how viral it has gone? I mean, Fox News had it. It's everywhere.
It's absolutely mind-blowing, but there's elements of it that I think resonate with everybody that was in the stadium, everybody in College Station, everybody across the whole country, right? The tension, everybody wants to beat number one when they're standing up in the top, and that's a huge responsibility that Alabama has been carrying for many, many years. We're happy to have done that. But I think the virality of the video is a little overstated because I know for one, I've probably watched that video 30 or 40 times myself.
Did you know you were being filmed at the time?
I had no idea. I think one of my daughters spotted Cam down there, but I had no idea that she was filming us. We were so caught up in the moment. And, it's difficult when those kicks happen because most places in the stadium you can't tell if the kick is going good or not. So what I've done over the years, I trained myself to focus just on Seth and watch his body language and see what he does. And so I was completely focused in on him, and I saw him kick the ball. I saw a little bit of body English kick in when the ball was doing whatever it was doing. And then he does his thank you. And I knew it was good at that point. And all heck broke loose and everybody started running all over the place. So I think it was a good call because I didn't see the refs put their arms out.
Hey, so, and by the way, my good friend Jesus Ortiz did a profile on your family. Texas A&M's kicker Seth Small embraces Mexican roots. You can find that on resquina.com. Learned a lot about your family. So take me through what a father's thinking, not only in that big Alabama moment, obviously the biggest moment of Seth's career, but like the kicker, like people hate him, people love him. Like it just kind of depends on the situation. And as a father, I know like taking a PK, a field goal, so much pressure there. Just what are you going through in those moments?
Yeah, well, we've learned to adapt to it a little bit. Yeah, life of a kicker is different, right? Kickers and specialists in general have to be wired a little bit differently. I don't know that I could do what Seth does out there. The amount of pressure that comes out at them is unbelievable, and people either love you or they hate you. Thankfully, he hasn't missed very much, and he doesn't miss very often, and that I hope that people remember Saturday night's kick against Alabama if he ever does miss again anytime soon, but hopefully he won't. But I tell Seth the same thing. I don't care if the kick is good or not. I'm just so proud of him and happy that he's put himself in a situation. He's put himself through the grind and the work that it takes to be out there on the field, and he wants to be on the field taking that last kick. About almost at the end of the third quarter, which from a football perspective, from a football player's perspective, was a great quarter, right? It was back and forth, and about end of the third quarter, early fourth quarter, I started telling him, you know what's coming, right? We happened to be sitting really close to him, and I said, you know what's coming, right? And he looked at me a couple of times. He said, yeah. And then later in the fourth quarter, I said, you know what's coming, right?
Well, it's not just that A&M won that game. There's so many elements to it, right? And nothing in college football happens in a vacuum. First of all, the entire day was chaotic. I mean, there's so many great games, so many great moments. And then A&M just jumped to the front of the line, right? I mean, unranked team, first time in 100 times, first save and assistant. We know all the stats. But given that Alabama was such a heavy favorite, to me, so David, we finished calling the Kentucky LSU game, and that was a beatdown. And we're in a car driving to go watch the fight afterwards. It was just a great sports day, night, weekend. It was an awesome Saturday all the way through. There were a lot of shocking moments following that game from afar. But for the three of us who had just been there, how is this the same team that we just saw against Mississippi State? How is this the same offense that we just saw against Mississippi State? How are they defending Alabama when they had such a hard time at different times against State? And a couple of answers that just kind of, chatting in the car that we came up with is, first of all, what Mike Leach does with the air raid can make you look bad. 5 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards, 30 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards. So we all thought Mike Elko had a good plan. They just strayed from it a couple of times 2 weeks ago. And then Calzada's performance was just like, where'd this come from? So congratulations. And I think the big picture is that whatever criticism Jimbo received after the State game, and a lot of that will always be tied to his contract and to his salary, then just kind of bounced back after the Alabama game. And it wasn't just the win. It was coupled with fun-loving, serious or not, trash-talking, the guarantee that he gave back in the summer. So there's a lot to break down and a lot to digest. But I think A&M rebounded from the big hit that the reputation took after the State loss.
When you look under the hood, when we did this show in July, I told you that in September, there were a couple of swing games for them. They played early in the year at Kentucky. They lost that game by 7. Kentucky's 6-0. That's the number 11 team in the country. They also played at Boston College, which is a pretty solid ACC team. They lost that game in overtime. They led to the final minute of regulation. And I think what's happened the last 2 weeks against Tennessee, who just blew the doors off of them, had 45 midway through the second quarter. And then last week they beat North Texas, but ugly game, 48-35. UNT had basically like 500 yards of offense. And, if not for turnover luck, that could have been a coin flip game. I think what's happened to an extent, David, there's a little bit of a spiraling effect in that when they lost both of those games early in the year, fairly close, the Boston College game in particular was right there for the taking, and they had a bad turnover in overtime. I think there's a little bit of a spiraling effect. So I do think the defensive issues are real. They need more depth. But at the same time, they have a great running back in Tyler Beatty. They have a pretty decent quarterback in Connor Bazelak. There's a solid receiver in Kiki Chisholm. There is some talent there. And I think in this game, one of the big keys for A&M, just get off to a fast start. Because I think Mizzou's the team that, right now mentally is a little fragile. And I think it's a situation where if they start to believe early in the game that, hey, they can win this, the talent is a little bit better than the results would suggest to this point.
All right, guys, so you know what you're supposed to do, but I'm going to add one extra wrinkle. You can sign up for alerts, too. I forgot about that. So you can like, you can subscribe, you can comment, sign up for alerts. So anytime we do a video that you want to hate me about, you can type immediately the stuff you don't like. And the stuff you do like, you can do it as well. The beauty is we all love it when you help our analytics out. Thanks for watching TexAgs Rewind.